So next up, we have Matthew Phillips.
Thanks. Well, apart from being surrounded by anti-environmentalists, I think I might, for the first time in London, be in the minority when I say that I voted to remain in the EU on the 23rd. Thanks. Scattered applause. Good. Thanks, Leslie. However, I should say that I did have some concern that our campaign might be in trouble a few days before the vote when I saw that Richard Branson had got involved in our campaign. The article at the time said, "Billionaire starts his own campaign to keep Britain in the EU. Founder of the Virgin Empire, who does not have the right to vote in the UK, is warning Britons about the economic and political dangers of a Brexit." Right there, I thought, that's our problem, Richard. The didactic tone, the blindness, the fact that the interview was probably conducted from Necker Island, basically the crippling lack of self-awareness. And that's the first time that I realized that we really needed a dialogue between both sides of the campaign like this one. So again, thanks to Leslie and Tim. This kind of dialogue, however, hasn't always been forthcoming from the Remainers. After the vote, a friend of mine asked me why I wasn't joining her on the March for Europe, which happened a couple of Saturdays ago. At the time, she was wearing a T-shirt which on the front said, "I am Europe and I am unity," which obviously I thought was fantastic. But on the back, it said, "Fuck off Brexit, you fucking fuck." I said, "Danny, do you realize that your top features two contradicting statements? On the one side, it preaches unity, and on the other, division." It's clear that we Remainers should not be announcing London as a separate city-state. We're not in ancient Greece, after all. And I think we must obviously start applying our own principles of togetherness and unity to the UK. And I don't mean that in a condescending, guilty, let's all move to Cumbria and hug a UKIP voter kind of way. I just mean we need to ensure that discussions like this happen all the time, all over the country. As a Remainer, however, I do have some major concerns about how Brexit will be implemented. Firstly, I'd be much more comfortable if Theresa May and the wider Conservative Party provided some confidence to EU nationals now living in the UK that they can stay. Yeah. I realise that May is currently advocating for unity, but I can still remember her Go Home or Face Arrest campaign from 2013, which makes me very wary. Secondly, a point about globalisation. I'm obviously a fan, because I don't think it follows necessarily that Brexit is the dawning of a UK that is more outward-looking, more international, which has simply been held back all these years by the EU. I actually fear that Brexit, if we're not careful, in fact represents further isolation and entrenchment for the UK, and perhaps the decline and fall of a liberal, integrated, and globalised world. But I'm just going to conclude with some positivity. I'm obviously personally devastated by the result of the referendum, but now that it is done, we, as Theresa May has said, need to make a success of it. My invitation, if I have one, is that we don't necessarily put all our faith in securing this success in a broken political elite, which, as far as I can make out, has been responsible for so much of the faction and division in the first place. To all the younger generation who didn't go out to vote, I hope this has really pissed you off and fired you up. Good, that's a good thing. And finally, if, and it's a big if, we can all work together, I believe there is a real chance that out of the ashes of Brexit will emerge a national society that is more collaborative, more integrated, more unified, and yes, more democratic than ever before. And hopefully then, we can start to look outward again without prejudice, without division, and without Richard Bloody Branson speaking on our behalf. Thanks.